Good afternoon, everybody. This is another episode of He Heals Too. This week is Knights of the Round Table. So it's me, Corey, Brother Leon, and Christina, and we're going to talk about field medicine. Christina, can you talk to us about Knights of the Round Table? What was the purpose of the Knights of the Round Table so we can get a base of why we're doing this today?
Of course. So first and foremost, the Knights of the Round Table was for us to get together and have a good conversation amongst leaders. One thing that I wanted to make sure that we did address is leaders to leaders, because a lot of times we get to talk to a vast majority of people, but leaders often do not get poured into enough. So in history, the Knights of the Round Table was a group of people from all different backgrounds, all different varieties, and they came together for King Arthur's court. And the purpose of them were to basically make sure that there remained peace in the land, and that from the different aspects, they had a report in to make sure that everything was going well in different departments. And so the Knights of the Round Table for us, because we are on a healing journey, is for us to be able to bring together all different people, different walks of life, and make sure every leader is healing well. If you can't have a healed leader, then you're going to have some problems in the field. So we wanted to get together, have some laughs,
Okay.
and have a good time, but we wanted to make sure that we discussed leaders in the battlefield and how to handle when you're the one that's injured.
Okay. So what we wanted to talk about in relation to field medicine. So for a lot of years, I was a medic in the Air Force, and one of the things that they taught us was triage medicine. And so what that was is during battle, if something happens, as the medic, I don't want to be where the fighting is.
Right.
And so when everything is going on, let's just say, what we deal with day to day here is maybe a shooting. And so if a shooting happens, you don't see the paramedics running in to where the actual crime happened. They stay outside of that area.
Mm-hmm.
What triaging is, you call out to those that can hear your voice. They walk towards your voice if they can. If not, then we try to go in and try to fix or decide who needs what at what time. Right? So when we're talking about leaders leading, or how do you heal and continue to lead, one of those things is figuring out, one, what is it that's going on with us, right? So Brother Leon, when we talk about understanding as a leader that no matter what, I got a job to do, right? So people are depending on me, whether that be at work or at home or in my neighborhood or my kids, whatever that is, people are depending on me to continue on regardless of what's going on with me. How do you, one, decide this issue that I have, I can handle and I can continue on? How do you look at that?
Well, you summed it up beautifully, that we as leaders, we have to develop self-care and triage the issue to say whether it is something that can be band-aided, something that can be medically happened, or to the extreme surgery. But it has to be addressed.
Correct.
We just can't let it fester and allow it to get septic.
Mm-hmm.
And then that septic turns around and get toxic, and then one thing leads to another.
Mm-hmm.
So in that, we have to, take time away for ourselves. Even if we talk about the master and we look at the scriptures with Jesus, there were a lot of times when he went away by himself. Now, we know praying, talking to the Lord, getting reassurance of what he was doing, because he was part man, he was part God. And there were some things that he went by himself because we as the followers weren't ready to see.
Right.
what he
Right. That's good.
Okay.
Okay. Even if you, I won't even go there. Let's go to Moses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I bring the children out of Egypt. It ain't going how I think it ought to go.
Mhm.
They get together while he up Mount Sinai talking to the Lord, putting their images. Let's go back to Egypt.
Mhm.
Let's go back to where I'm comfortable with, I am familiar with, and that is an injured mentality. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we're especially talking about leaders, first of all, we have to understand the responsibility that the Lord has put on us. We have to understand that there are people watching us, needing us. And if we don't turn around and steal away to help ourselves, we're not going to help anybody.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest things for me as a leader is knowing when to draw the line between, because like Corey said, we are needed. Like there's so many levels of responsibility. There's always someone who is in need.
Right.
There's always something going on. There's always something moving. And the tendency for most leaders is to be worker bees.
Mhm.
And we just tend to want to help
Right.
consistently
Right.
to the point where we don't take that moment out to make sure we're good.
Mhm.
But the downside to that is you, like you said, you end up leading injured. And there's this whole concept of the mother bear, right? And once a mother bear is injured, sometimes she can overprotect her cubs because she don't want them to experience what it is that she has encountered. So if she's been injured, she tends to lead different from a fearful place than from a triumphant place. And that's a completely different, when you got a scared leader, Lord help us all. When you got a scared leader, we got a real problem because they move and they make decisions out of fear and not faith. And that's a different type of leader.
So, a main thing is understanding what it is that hurts you. What's my ailment? What is the thing that's an issue to me? Because we can talk all day long. We are really good about praying, God, just cover me, protect me, cover my family, protect my family. But to really dig into, to open up what it is that's going on. See, part of after triage happens, then you start dealing with those issues that are underlying, right? So we talked about the fact that a lot of times, and before the camera came on, we kind of talked about the levels of triage, right? And the red, yellow, green, and black. Black being death, red being, just about the worst it can get, yellow being okay, and green being you good to go. You can just keep on fighting. Ain't nothing wrong with you. If I'm injured, whatever that injury might be, I'm brokenhearted, right? And I feel like, well, I've been brokenhearted before. I can just suck it up. I can just keep going. It's not really going to affect me like that. I'm going to just keep moving. At what point do you decide, I can't keep taking this to my people? You said that if you are leading out of that emotion, then it's going to be a different type of leader, right? If I'm leading like I don't want to get hurt again, even a coach, if they're coaching scared, then they're not gonna throw the ball down the field, right? You only gonna have run left, run right, run up the middle, right? And everybody else is looking at the situation like you have options outside of this. Why are we just sticking to this and we're gonna lose the people? Mm-hmm. So we have to be willing to say to ourselves, my heart is broken, or I'm upset, or I'm depressed, or I physically don't feel well. A lot of times we won't say the thing that's an issue to us because we feel like it's giving power to that thing, when realistically it's giving you an opportunity to push that thing out. We do this thing, and we talked about it before, where a lot of times we build up walls to keep things from hurting us, but it typically protects the thing that hurts us most.
Right.
And so as a leader, what happens in my mind, what happens in my heart, I have to be willing at some point to expose that.
Right.
So when we talk about, that part, we also have to talk about how deep is it? How bad is it? What's the origin of your pain? So Christina, when we talk about this part, and I smile because I know this is a difficult thing.
Very difficult.
But what if you don't have to go into a lot of detail, but if you were to look at your life, what are the origins of the reasons why you say, I just have to, I can't stop, I don't care how I feel, I'm suffering, I can't take no more, but I got to give some more. Where does that come from? Why do leaders do that?
For me, and yeah, that's the area. For me, the problem comes from trust issues. Is basically kind of the root of it. If you have put your trust faith into anything and it failed, right? Then you kind of develop this mentality of, if it's gonna get done, I'll do it. Because the last time I put it in your hands, you ain't handle it like I need you to handle it, or you mishandled me. You know what I mean? Like I told you something, or I gave you something of me, and you mishandled it. And so now the best thing for me to do is just, I'll do it no matter what. The problem with that is, like I said, there's always something. And if you can't trust anyone else to do it, then you never find time to not do it. Because, well, if I can't trust you, well, if you're doing something, I'm going to be doing it too. Right. And you never empower your people to be able to do what they're called to do, because you're so busy doing everything yourself. And okay, so let's get real, right? Because this is a He Heals episode, but I'm healing and heals all day. So we're going to put it all on the table. I got a real problem when I see a vision, and most leaders are like this. Like when you see a vision, you see it to totality. Like when you're baking cakes or whatever, like you know what that cake gonna look like even before the flour hit the mold, right? Like you see what you're seeing. And when you see someone else trying to help or assist with that, and it doesn't look like they're going in the direction you would have normally done it, or it doesn't look like it's panning out like you would have liked to have had it pan out, the tendency is, oh, I got it. Just don't worry about it. You know what I mean? And I do that a lot because if it's not moving as a leader, I'm like, we got to task. I'm task driven. We got to go. We got this. We got this deadline, that deadline. And if you're not pushed, I got to pick up your slack, right? But the problem is, if I'm always picking up your slack, then you don't ever get any stronger because you don't have no weight.
Correct.
Ain't nothing for you to lift. Ain't nothing for you to power through. I'm the only one powering through, and then I get burned out. And now I'm like, oh man, don't nobody want to help me. No.
So is it safe to say that as leaders, we're afraid to allow other people to experience the failures that we experience?
Very much so.
Because one of the things that made us strong leaders is that we failed at some stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like it just did not work. We thought it was going to work. It just did not work. And when we see those people in that place, and we just like, I know the way you're doing it ain't gonna work. It look like it ain't gonna work.
Right.
Let me guide you to the right place. Brother Leon, how do, as a leader, how do you just say, you know what, let it all burn down? You gotta learn.
I don't think you can get to that point. I think as a leader, you're seeing the vision of the whole cake, is the analogy that she made. But then you're trusting the ingredients to mix together to make the cake. Right? So if I go to Walmart and I buy a Great Value burger and I make my cake don't taste good, first thought, maybe I need to go to another brand than Great Value. What I'm saying is, as leaders, sometimes when we have that vision, we put people in place, and even though we are explaining it out, sometimes we have the wrong people.
That's good stuff.
In the wrong place. Because as we are seeing the vision, our other responsibility as a leader is to keep pouring down and projecting to the people that we are asking to do what we're asking them to do. So I have the awesome responsibility of leading a group of 20 people at work, and all of them are subject matter experts in their own little field. I know little bits and pieces of what they do, but I do know where we're trying to go.
Correct.
And if I see you stumbling, me as a leader coming, okay, let's sit down and talk. I shared this analogy. I have 5 different leadership styles. There's some people that I could go in and I can just yell, they'll get it and they'll run off and run the touchdown. There's some people I have to go every 10 yards with, okay? And there's some that I have to walk yard by yard. But at the end of the day, we're in the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
That is the same thing that when we're talking about leading anything, God gives us the complete vision. He gives us the people that put in place to build that. But then also we have to keep in constant prayer. Are they doing the right thing? And the horrible thing, tragic thing that we as leaders don't want to do is ask somebody to sit down.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be stuck with because, oh, that's Bro Leon and his this, but maybe Bro Leon's season is over with.
Mm-hmm.
I look at myself there in my organization. I've been there 33 years, and I gave this analogy to a young lady. I am the old dog on the porch. I don't want to move. I bark, but my bark's so low it ain't funny because I have seen the best of my years. I'm looking at retirement. So I am therefore an advisory capacity, but I am also encouraging this young generation to come forward. So to sum all that up, we as leaders, we have to watch the people that we have up on us to keep motivating if it's needed and replace if it's needed also.
Can I jump in?
Sure.
So this, the conversation topic is based around field medicine, right? And we're discussing specifically the portion of triage.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was in the Army and I was a military police officer. So basically we're infantry with guns, right? And a Hummer.
Mhm.
And so our job is to go in, fight till you can't fight no more. And then somebody will drag you out behind this curtain, so to speak, right? And they check you out.
Right.
And they look at you, you know, head to toe.
Right.
And they say, you know, this is what's wrong. This is what I can visibly see. And then they start asking you questions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as leaders, I think sometimes we become the, you know, how they say the doctor is the worst patient. Sometimes we as leaders are the worst people to triage because we're so used to triaging everybody else. Like you said, we're used to strategizing. We're used to figuring out what style works for this person. And we're usually the person doing the analysis, right? But when it comes to us being triaged, it's hard for others to give us an analysis because we're so used to doing it that it's difficult to sit back and you answer the question. Okay, well, let's sit down and talk about your performance, you know, as a leader. Like that almost feels like somebody, you know what I'm saying, like checking me, like, whoa, you know, especially when we don't look at the people who are triaging us as equals. Because typically, I'm going to be honest, an MP coming into a medic's office, not that we look down on them, but we're fighting in these streets and you behind a curtain. Like you ain't in no battle, like you ain't got no stripes, you know, you ain't took no leaks, you ain't out here in these streets, like you ain't dealing with what I'm dealing with. Not that I look down on you, but I don't see you on the same level. So typically when leaders have to sit down and take that moment to be triaged themselves, it's a difficult question for you to sit on the opposite side of that table. And I think for a good leader who can do that, takes a lot of getting rid of your pride. And it takes you coming down out of your leadership role in order to submit to someone else's authority. Because yes, you're not in these fields, but when it comes to medicine, this is what you do. Like you said, you got field experts in these particular things. No, you may not have all the same level of experience I do, but in this, you it, right? And I have to submit to you being it in this area. As leaders, we generally don't like to do that.
So our pride is a L.
Very much so.
And you know, so because in my mind, I've been on the other side of that, where you know you got the MP coming in, you know, or I've had to go. I remember I was overseas one time. And this guy, he had gotten hurt and they couldn't get him. Like we couldn't get an ambulance to him. We had to go in and get him. And he might've been like 250. And so when he saw me, he was like, I mean, they couldn't get me, you're not gonna be able to get me. The things that I learned as a medic allowed me to lift this man 250 pounds, put him on my shoulders and walk him out, and then get him to a place where we can get him help.
Right.
So if we understand, a lot of times we don't take the time to respect the people that we have working for us or working around us, or we see our position as the most necessary thing. If it ain't for me, ain't nothing working. That's not a logical thought process, right? My pride can't be in such a way that I'm hurt, I'm broken, and can't nobody help me.
Right.
You ain't good enough to help me. How?
Yep, that's
And
how
this is what I know. And so as a leader, we have to break that part down, right? When we're talking about how do we get to a place where we can see everyone around us as necessary, it is, I have to really open up my closet and see all that stuff that ain't right, all the stuff, all my ailments, all the things that I cannot do, because that's what we do. We overcompensate by jumping into all the rest of it, right? I'm a delve into this, this ain't working right, so I'm all about this right here. Right. So I can overcompensate where I'm broken. No, don't overcompensate for where you're broken. Show me where you're broken. Bring that thing to God, right? So he can deal with you there. So now I can make you a complete person. The idea is to be whole, to be complete, to be healed from top to bottom. I can't do that if you're saying, well, this the part. Don't worry about this part over here. Like, yeah, it's broken, but I can still manage with that.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. When you were talking and you were kind of giving the analogy of the MP, you had specific training to handle that particular type of situation. But like you said, most of the time it's our pride. But the other catch-22 is leaders don't like to come out of battle. Like, I'm just going to be honest. We don't like to come out the battlefield. We don't like it because this is what we were trained to do. So when you take us out of our element, it's a complete level of uncomfortability. I don't want to be behind this curtain. I got stuff to do. Like, it's just like when you playing sports. If you are the quarterback, nobody want to be pulled out of the game. Nobody want to be benched, especially even if you hurt. How many times have you seen the quarterback take a leap? You know he hurt. Without a shadow of a doubt, you know he hurt. And what he do? He get up and he tell them, no, don't come get me. Right. It's a major thing for a leader to come out of battle. It's an even more difficult thing for them to be completely exposed. Because that is what we like the Superman cape. Let's keep it real. Like, we like the Superman cape. Right. And when it's just Clark Kent, that's a different story. And we don't want you to see Clark Kent. Let's just keep it real. Every employee or person that's under us can't handle seeing us without the cape too. Right. Because there's some stuff they can't see their leader in certain conditions because they wouldn't be able to think they could make it.
Question from the audience. Leaders says, but is that an ego thing? Is that
absolutely.
Absolutely an ego. But can I say this? I don't feel like ego is always bad.
It's not.
I don't feel like having an ego is always bad. I feel like when you let the ego lead you, then now we're getting into a dangerous space. But every leader gotta have some level of I'm that chick, like, or that dude. Like, if you don't have that about you, you're probably not a leader.
Right. I agree.
It's a difference in confidence and arrogance.
Yeah.
And so, me understanding my position and my job and what I do, and I've studied for this, I work for this, I know this, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But when, like she said, I decide that, I'm better than everything around me because I've learned these things or I'm in this particular position, that's when we kind of get thrown off, right? That's when nobody want to talk to the boss or deal with, the leader because, like, you're not being realistic. Be real with me is the thing that a lot of people say to Christians, right? Because a lot of times we have played it up like, I'm this mega Christian. I don't make no mistakes. I ain't never lied. I ain't never cheated. I ain't never stole, right? Because all of a sudden I'm in church and I be there every Sunday. I got a white shirt on. And so the reality of the thing is all of us came from dirt. Like all of us are nasty and have done things. And if we are honest about it, I'm not saying you go out there and you write out every detail that you did and show it to the people. That don't help nobody,
Right.
right? That's not going to help everybody. Some of them going to look at you different. But if you can be honest and say, man, I was the one drinking, right? I was the one that's out there doing whatever. I was the one sneaking in and out of people's houses and, messing with women this way, that way, and I changed my thought process. I changed what I wanted to do. I gave these things to God, right? And then God, day by day, is dealing with me so I don't have to go through what I've been going through. One of the things when we talked about field medicine and triage was, are you who hurt you?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times, the things that we decide to do because I like it ends up being the thing that's our downfall, right? So when we look at that, as a leader, I gotta do some self-evaluation, right? We don't like that either.
Right.
As much as I don't want you sitting across the table telling me what I've done good or bad or indifferent, I also don't want to sit down and say, Corey, listen, like you need to work out, or you got to get up and you got to pray, you got to read your Bible, you got to do this and you got to do that. No, but I'm good in this area over here. Like I'm really good about being on time for church, and I'm really good about this and that. Is that enough? If we have a part of our body that's bruised or broken, it's going to slow us down. I can't lead the same, right? You talking about the steps that you take to lead different people. I can't lead the same if I'm injured. I just can't do it because now I'm slowed down. So that person that's taking yard by yard, I ain't got time for that today because my side hurting. I got a broken rib. I got this and that going on, and I'm just trying to make it through the day.
Right.
We think it's okay.
Yeah.
Because we can handle the pain to continue in pain.
Right.
It's not that bad. I can handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but are you as effective when you are healed? Are you as effective broken, or do we miss parts of you?
Yeah.
Is your leadership, even at work, is if you come to work and you got a headache, are they gonna get everything out of you that they normally get?
No.
Probably not. And you can deal with that, right? It ain't killing me. It's not knocking me down. I can still function. I go about my day, all the things, and I'm thinking I'm doing good, but the whole time my face scratched up, right? That's gonna push some people away. The people not gonna come to me with the same types of issues. And so people can see your pain even though you can tolerate it. Right? And so you have to be able to open up. 4 things we wanted to take to God, right? We want to take to God what we deal with, what we're currently doing, what our desires are, and what we delight in. And if we can do that consistently, then that's where you start tearing into these are my broken places. These are the things that I think I'm good at. These are the things I'm broken at. Mm-hmm. I know I've been talking for a second, but the other thing, and we're going to deal with this right now, the other thing that we do as leaders is we will not compliment the thing we do well. We're confident in it, but we will not compliment ourselves about what we do well because we see and know all the other things, and so we hold that against us. Mm-hmm. You got to be able to see good in you.
Yep.
And that opens up your eyes to the people that's around you and like, man, yeah, they make these mistakes, but these are the things they really good at. Really good leaders can see you even in a flawed situation and you'd have messed up everything. Hey, yeah, that was a mistake. This is how you fix that, but you are so good at this. And so this should help you with that, right? What's in you that's good? Could you answer that question? I know we talked about that last episode.
Yeah.
What's in you that's good?
I am a good leader.
You're a good leader.
I am a good leader. I have a natural drawing to what I call the underdog. Now, Corey laughs at me because I typically, watching the football game, if my team is not playing, then whoever the underdog is who I'm rooting for. And if that shifts in the game, I'm shifting. If they started out and they was the beast, then I'm probably for the other team, right? I'm always going to be drawn to the person who needs defending the most.
Mhm.
And so for me, that is a really strong quality because it causes people who normally would slip through the cracks to get caught.
I like that because as a good leader, you are looking to help those who can't help themselves, looking to defend those whose rights, privileges have been knocked under. But I want to go to the self-inflicted.
Mhm.
Sometimes you can be doing all the things right and trouble comes. I want you to think that there are times when you get out there, Lord knows, I know the experience of trying to think the grass is green on the other side.
Mhm.
And boy, sowing into that and reaping what came out of it seems like it's taken a lifetime to get away because it shakes your confidence. It makes you want to run and go hide somewhere. But I want to talk very briefly about just doing everything right. And the person that comes to my mind is Job. Everything
Mhm.
doing right.
Mhm.
But then the devil goes up to God and God goes, have you considered my servant Job? Because Job was faithful in everything that he did. And he believed God, and God systematically took everything away from him. And before we got into that, Job, the Bible said Job fell down and worshiped. Even if we're doing everything right, I need to say this. I need everybody to understand that we win. We win. If you go into Revelation, John said he saw a number that no man can count. Clothed, we win. Okay. But there's a process that we have to go through this. And sometimes going through this process, when we're talking about field medicine, we're going to get injured, whether that's self-inflicted, whether that's somebody else hurting us, whether that's somebody else doing some things, but then also to the point you're making triaging of what we're doing to kind of help ourselves heal and be transparent with it. You know, sometimes I don't think the world understands the difference between the world and the church because a lot of times the church is acting just like the world. And we get so judgmental with folks. We get so righteous with folks. We want to throw rules and regulations on folks instead of just sitting down, letting them come in, figure out who they are, find out who they are, and then help them out in that process.
I agree. I think the other thing to address, because we are leaders talking to leaders, is as leaders, training other leaders, we got to train them that even though we have to equip ourselves to go through battle and to endure, because you also can't have a punk leader, right? Like just because you got a headache don't mean you get to quit. Just because things aren't working like you want them to work doesn't mean you get to give up, right? But we also have to make sure we include in the training that every injury needs to be assessed. It ain't really up to you. You need to have a group of people that you trust that can assess you. Because you don't need to be the only one determining whether you're good or not. Like just a minute ago, I was thinking in my mind, I'm good, right? Like Corey said something to me about, okay, you know, you can't leave from down here. You gotta da. And I looked at it with the same sarcastic look. I usually look at him like, okay. And I kept doing what I was doing, right? Mr. Leon standing in the corner and he's just smiling like, okay, Christina, like I can see it in his face. He ain't gonna say nothing, but I see it in his face. And he's like, all right, you know. Then here we go. Miss Julia, she come tap me on the shoulder. Hey, come here. I don't like what I see. You gotta have people around you, and as leaders, we have to train leaders to find those people first. Find the people who gonna make sure when they see something off with you, it's like, hey, come here. We need to address that, because if you are the person trying to determine whether your injury is okay for you to proceed with or not, you're gonna be messed up every time. You in a dangerous spot. You gotta have wise counsel.
You do. And, you know, the thing that you said about addressing, you know, you have to address every single thing that comes up. I was watching Forrest Gump the other day, and when they got to the field of battle, one of the things that I can't think. Lieutenant Dan said. I'm like, I know his name, Lieutenant Dan.
Mhm.
So one of the things that Lieutenant Dan said to Forrest was one of the most important thing was that he changed his socks. And so, like in a field of battle, you would think like that shouldn't be like I need my gun, I gotta have my arm on, I gotta have like all these things. He's like, that's the most important thing, to make sure that you're changing them socks out, make sure your feet don't go bad. So it is important to address every little thing,
Every issue.
even the things that we feel like, oh, I got that.
Mhm.
Right? We do that. We do
Oh,
that
yeah.
without a. That's
Oh,
easy.
yeah.
Somebody say something to us, I'm good about saying something to somebody,
Amen.
like correcting.
Amen.
I'm good about correcting things when I see it wrong, but I do not like when I'm wrong.
Mhm.
Okay.
So I don't like if I make a mistake, I don't like it. I don't like it because I feel like I shouldn't have made that whatever that mistake
Right.
is, even if it's something that I didn't clearly know. I'm like, I knew enough to try it, so I should have been good at it.
Mhm.
We have to really, pay attention to our tendencies, because we leaders are really good at looking at the people around them and kind of I can break down everybody and what they do after a few minutes, a few times being around them. Oh, this how they are, this how they act, this what they need, XYZ. But don't do me.
Mhm.
Don't do me. I don't want none. Like I don't want your correction.
Mhm.
Like let me do what I'm doing. I'm good at self-evaluating, right? After the situation, I'm gonna sit down in my house and I'm gonna go over it and over it and over it in my mind and get nowhere with it.
Nowhere.
So let me do my process.
Nowhere fast.
Don't check me.
Right.
We have to have somebody that says, hey, no,
That ain't it.
like that's not, you can't do XYZ. We were having a conversation the other week when we had the podcast, and it's a certain thing that I do all the time with people. Like I open up sometimes too much. Relax. I open up too much sometimes, and I give people false hope. Let's say that.
Mhm.
I give people false hope. And it's not something that I do intentionally. And I didn't even see it as an issue. But when I was talking to everybody else, they were like, you can't do that. Like you can't say certain things to certain people certain ways because they're gonna take it wrong. So the flaw in me is not always something I can see.
Right.
The thing that's broken in me is not always something I can see. And even though it might be something that I did to myself, I need the eyes of the other people around me to say, hey, look, I ain't trying to push you around, but this is something you need to look at. My mom is really good about that. I remember the first time I preached, afterward, everybody was like, oh, you did such a good job. My mom ain't that way.
Mhm.
She said, you mentioned a story that did not relate to what you were talking about.
Mhm.
It's like you bent that story to make it fit, but it didn't fit.
Mhm.
And so you need to study.
Mhm.
And you need to get, and so I was just like, I had to suck it up because that's mom, right? That's mom. But it made me change the way that I looked at the things that I do and not feel like just because people are rooting you on, that means that you're just perfect, right? You need mom that's going to come in and say, no, you go back to the drawing.
That ain't it.
This is good. This is not good. You
Right.
should have never said this over.
Mhm.
Right. So we need that. That's the only way we get to a place where we start to dig into those areas. Because what happens when we have a cut that we just kind of, I'm gonna put a band-aid on. I got a cut on my arm right now. Well, it's not a cut now, it's just a scar. And it's a raised scar from when I was young. I did a backflip out of a little swing set. They used to have a swing set with two benches on both sides, right? And so one side would always be broken, and it's a jagged piece on there. So I go and I do this backflip, and I flip out of it, and it cuts, and it digs in and cuts down to where you can see white in my arm. And so I bled from about 3:30 to about 7:30, because my mom was like, hold some pressure on it, right? And so what ends up happening is eventually it stops bleeding. Eventually it heals, but it's scarred. It's never the same. If we don't deal with, even though it didn't kill me, I didn't get infected from it, but
Right.
it'll never be the same
Right.
because I didn't treat it.
Right.
Everything that we have going on must be addressed.
Right.
All of it.
All of it.
And so we can't continue on, like I'm a leader. I got my couple people that I can talk to, that I can pour some stuff out to, and then I'm gonna just get back up after that 30-minute conversation. I'm gonna keep going. Now, sometimes you need to lay down. That surgery is a real thing, right? I watched my sister a few weeks back. She had surgery, and in her mind, she was just gonna get up, get ready, be gone, doing whatever she want to do. And surgery does something to you because something that you are exposed in a way that you should not be. Right? Your body is cut open. They doing stuff inside. They touching stuff in you that should not be touched.
Right.
And then you feel like you can just get up. That's not the way it works. You have to heal from the inside out.
Right.
And so a lot of times, as long as our outside looks good, we think we're good. So we have to heal from the inside out.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Can I address the fact that as leaders, we experience friendly fire? And the people who tend to hurt us the quickest and the most are the people that are closest to us to hurt us.
Mhm.
When I think about battle, my generals and stuff like that were never actually on the field. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Like they never were on the field.
Correct.
The injuries they sustained usually were people who had backstabbed them or people who were close enough to be in their cabinet.
Mhm.
Like they were the people who were in the inner circle, right? When Jesus was talking and he said, Peter was like, Lord, I love you. He's like, but you're going to betray me.
Mhm.
You. Not, we ain't talking about the 5,000 I fed. We ain't talking about, the Israel. We ain't talking about all them.
Right.
We talking about you. You at the table with me. You do break bread with me. You gonna do it. Judas, you the one. You the one
Mhm.
that's gonna sell me out. Not the 5,000 we done fed, not all them people, not the woman with the issue of blood, not none of them.
Close.
It's gonna be the one that's close.
Right.
And a lot of times, as leaders, once we sustain that friendly fire, we tend to become unfriendly. Can we just call it like it is? Like we're still leaders,
Yeah.
but we get too much dip on our chip,
Ain't nobody
and
getting close to
hate
me.
ain't no. I'll never let nobody get that close. And so then you end up having this guarded
Right.
leadership.
Right.
Like I remember you just said, that you had 5 different styles of leadership. Like some people you can just kind of like yell at and they get it, and then some you can give them a little task and they
Right.
can go.
Right.
Some you
Right.
got to walk hand in hand. But can we talk about the leaders who have been injured and the versions of leadership that they issue out from that? Because you got the scared leader, but then you got the leader who have experienced battle wounds. Just everybody did it, right? Like life happens.
Right.
Then you got the one who sat right here
Right.
with the knife. That's a different kind of pain than when you get out there and Osama bin Laden and his crew done shot at you. That's
Gotcha.
because I expect you to do that,
I expect
right?
that.
That's your job. You the
Right.
enemy. I expect the devil to do what the devil do. But you,
Right.
who was rocking with me, who said we was in agreement. I read this passage God gave me, Galatians 2, and Paul was addressing Peter and Cephas, and they had come to him and Barnabas, and they were like, listen, we know that you preaching about this whole, you ain't got to be circumcised, right? We Jews, you got to be circumcised. But we recognize the same thing that we got from God. We recognize it's on you.
Right.
So we give you the right hand of fellowship. We brothers, right?
Mhm.
But then the moment they came over to their city, the moment they came over to Paul's city, they started talking this same circumcised stuff. And Paul was like, wait, whoa. I thought we had an understanding. I thought we as leadership had gotten the same level of anointing from God, like we on the same. And then you come to my city talking this reckless stuff. Wait a minute. And Peter look at him and go, but yeah, we still talking circumcision. And Paul is like, wait a minute. So sometimes as a leader who's been wounded by those close to you, the hardest part is to address the person that was close to you.
Correct.
And still love them.
Right.
And still love them, because Peter still was a disciple.
Mhm.
Paul was still God's man. Like they still had to accomplish the mission together. And we still got to love together.
Right.
But you did stab me in the back.
Yeah.
And I still got to love you.
Right.
How do you handle it when it's the people that's close to you that do something, and then you still got to get on the cross like Jesus and go forgive them? He said forgive everybody but Judas. That's what he said.
That's a core move.
Yeah, but let me say it this way. All is done in the furtherance of the gospel. And sometimes we want to say, I go east, you go north, you go south.
Mhm.
But in the east, if I got more folks, then you're supposed to be in the south. And too, you got a tendency to want to come over with mine. I think that's what God tells us, not don't touch his anointing.
Right.
And that's with leaders
Period.
amongst each other.
Mhm.
Not to tear one another down, but I think we do have the responsibility to address that. How 1 minute you tell me one thing, the next minute you tell me something else.
Yeah.
Is it meant for us to separate? If it is, okay, but I'm going to address what I'm going to address. We can agree to disagree, and we go on our way. I think that's the man complex in us, that when we trying to hold on to something, and if you look at those apostles, every last one of them had a horrific death.
Mhm.
But everybody was trying to hold on to their little piece of the puzzle. Because even though it was James and John, mom hated, he wanted to set the left hand and right hand,
Mhm.
rest of them wanted it too.
Mhm.
They were just mad because she was bold enough to ask.
That's it.
But they wanted it too. So it's the same thing. But if we understand our vision and we understand as leaders what God has called us, and sometimes we can get trapped into something too long. When God had told us to leave, and I'm going to use me for example, I was start out 25th Avenue Baptist Church. While I heard my pastor, I could not hear my pastor.
Gotcha.
And I thought because my mom and dad went there, my grandma went there, that it was meant for me to be there and bring the other generations of Cottons up in 25th. And I went to my mom and dad. I hear him, but I don't hear him. And they were like, Leon, we just want you saved.
Yeah.
And I went and I found Zion Hill Missionary Baptist Church. Dwayne Hunt was preaching the same gospel that DeRoscoe Scarborough was preaching, but it opened a whole different aspect. And I love my pastor there because he not only taught me the gospel, but he shared with me people and learned how to deal with people and their emotions and their expectations of you and your expectations of them. So if we as leaders, and we're talking about leaders, we got to address, just like Christina said, those that backstab us, those that hurt us, but still do it in a loving kindness, because we don't know the future. We don't get back together somewhere, somehow.
Listen, that's a difficult thing,
Of course.
and hits close to home.
Mhm.
Because I feel like sometimes that the people that I trust the most in leadership, I think a lot of times the people that I trust the most always, not always, sometimes seem to hurt me because I trust them. And so one of the things that I had to do was, we had went through this period one time where it was like, I don't trust you, I trust the God in you.
Right.
Like, I don't agree with that. That don't work for me, because if I don't trust you,
I don't trust you.
I don't trust
Right.
none of you.
Right.
Right.
And so what I
don't
had
even
to
trust
do,
you, God.
what I had to do was flip the situation, right? If I had done someone wrong, or if I had done something, because I hadn't always been the one to say, man, I'm sorry, I know I did this wrong.
Right.
I have been the one that's done something wrong. It's just like, well, I mean,
You gonna be
you
all
can have that, like, whatever.
Mhm.
So, it's really, 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 really difficult. But it is a thing where you have to find compassion, for the people in whatever position they're in, because, I'm in sales. So a lot of times we're dealing with people They might tell me no on something. They might have an attitude, and I don't hold it against them because it's something that I need from them.
Mhm.
I have to look at the people around me in the same light, that I can't hold it against you because I need to be able to show you love. I need to experience that from you. I need to be able to give you everything that God gave me to give you. And if the enemy can come in by you saying something about me behind my back or doing something behind my back, then that puts us both at a loss.
Mhm.
And so one of us has to be mature enough to say, this ain't big enough to break us.
Right.
This ain't big enough to push me, for me to push you away. It is hard
Mhm.
because that is my go-to. My go-to
Right.
is I'm gone, I'm out,
Right.
I'm leaving. I don't want to talk to you ever again, and I'm good with it. Growth is, you know, you hurt me, right? That really broke my heart. We still need to figure out how to go forward. I'm not looking for your apology.
Right.
Because just because I told you you hurt me, you knew what you did, you know, before I said anything. So apology ain't gonna fix this. You know, us being able to work together, us being able to go forward, and then figuring out within me how to forgive, you know, how to let go, because that's where it is.
Right.
I know when people didn't forgive me, it didn't matter one way or the other. When I didn't feel like what I did was wrong or whatever the case. So it's not a thing on them, right? It is a thing in me
Right.
that needs to be purged.
Right.
And so that's another one of those things that, you know, God, this is one of the things that I deal with.
Mhm.
So I need your help in this area. So when it comes up that I'm not just, I had some stuff happen at work and I just felt like everybody was against me. And on my way out the door, I usually speak to everybody. All right, now I'll see y'all next week. I ain't spoke to the first person. I'm talking about, I see
Can't
people,
see.
I go the other direction. I'm like, I need something out of my office all of a sudden. And they see me do it.
Right.
Etsy.
They see me do it.
Right.
And so when I come out, now everybody's gone. And so now I feel convicted because I know what I did,
Mhm.
right? I know how what I represent at work. I know what I represent. I represent God. I represent being a man, you know, having integrity, all these things. And what did that say? That I was not willing to address it right. I couldn't address it right then.
Right.
I was hot. I was upset. I was broken.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
and so admitting being broken by having to face people that I thought had did me wrong,
Right.
I couldn't do it.
Right.
It took me the weekend.
Get it together.
It took me the weekend to get it together enough to say, hey,
Right.
right? And so it's like, okay, God, that is deal with me right here because I can't do that. Like that broke my heart
Right.
because I was genuinely trusting, you know, that these people would just do right because it's right.
Mhm.
And people don't know, I hadn't always been that way. So you have expectations that we place on people that aren't realistic
Mhm.
based on your own life.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
So, you know, being in a position as a leader to say, you know what, I have to look at everything that's going on. I have to look at everything that I face, the things that I've done to myself, that others have done to me, that I've just experienced because life has experiences, right? And be willing to say, God, all this stuff, the good, the bad, the indifferent, all this stuff I'm gonna lay down at your feet. And so I need your direction to put me in a place that I can heal, not just from, you know, the ones that I know that I can't get up from, but the ones that I think I can carry each and every day. We have to do it.
Yeah.
Because I can't be an effective leader. I can't empower people, right? I can't help them get to the goal line if I'm the one that they got to carry.
Right. Can we talk about when you're pulled out of battle into triage, that it's always inside a tent? Like it's always off in this closed space,
Mhm.
right? Because one, everybody don't need to see you in every condition.
Mhm.
It ain't safe. It ain't good. Some people don't never need to know the ugly side of you. Like some people don't ever need to know that Corey really can have an attitude like that. Like some people don't need to know that because it might mess them up to the point where they couldn't bounce back from it, right? So it's always in this closed space. But the other thing is it keeps you away from elements that could cause you further harm while you're already injured. Because the worst thing would have been for you to walk out there, you already hurt, brokenhearted, ticked to the max, right? Hotter than fish grease. And then the person look you in the face and go, after you speak, right? You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm already injured and somebody do something else while I'm already, that I might can't. It might take me longer than the weekend. You know what I'm saying? So I think part of it is making sure as leaders, we also teach that it's okay for you to go behind the veil. Spiritually and naturally, it's okay when you're injured to go behind the veil because everybody don't need to see it, but everything you don't need to be exposed to while you're injured.
Right.
It ain't safe.
Right. I was at work last week, and for Tuesday was just one of those days. It seemed like everything was coming at me, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, Lord, okay, I had a good run.
Listen,
Clock
I
out.
understand.
And problem after problem. And then I turned on my Pandora. First song that came on was God Is. So I'm listening and I'm like, okay, Lord, I hear you. Get up and I'll walk around the parking lot, and my folks know when I'm walking, I'm decompressing. So I get back to my office and they, Leon, you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. After they come check on me, boom, the problems start coming back. And I'm at this point now, I'm laughing. Okay, God, you're funny. So then when I walk into my car, he's like, Leon, I've equipped you with this.
Right.
Why you sit here? Where I got you. You are the guy to handle these problems. But I'm like, Lord, I don't want to deal with all this.
That part.
Yeah.
I don't want them.
If I could be you giving me that problem, but you ain't answer my problem.
Okay.
You ain't said nothing, but okay, God, I got you. Head on to the house. And so I feel what you're saying, because a lot of times people are waiting on you to get hurt. So they can put their finger in the wound and hurt you some more. So then you have to put on that face, and I'm with you, Corey. When I get it, I take the back steps out. Next morning, I'm gonna say, I ain't see you come out. Yeah, I had to go the other way to a meeting, then I went on out.
Yeah.
I ain't trying to see nobody.
Right.
I'm trying to get on out the door, because you're right. If you see me that way, then I'm gonna react another way. Then I've hurt more than what I intended to hurt. So yeah.
This has been really good.
Yeah.
It forced me, even the topic kind of forced me to look at myself in the mirror and see whether or not I'm dealing with the things in me that are broken that others can't see. Going forward, I know we're gonna do Knights of the Round Table at another date again, but going forward, for the leaders, we want to make sure, we talked about earlier those 4 Ds that we want to take to God. What we're dealing with, what we're doing, our desire, and to delight, what we delight in, and making sure that we are we have to be an open book to God. Yeah, it's obvious that we need our brothers and our sisters next to us to be able to talk and have those conversations, but we got to be transparent to God so that He can see everything. Part of being in that tent and being open is so that they can see everything and protect you from the outside. I don't want anything to get in that wound to cause an infection and make it worse than what it was. So the only one that can do that for you through your spirit and through your mind and through your heart is God.
Right.
So when we, throughout this week, when we're thinking about it, when we're facing the things that we have to face as leaders, we just have to remember who the head of our life is. Our base scripture is He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. That's Psalms 147:3. And it speaks to how God deals with us. We are His responsibility.
Right.
And so as a leader, we have to understand that we are somebody's responsibility, just like we feel everybody else is ours.
Right.
And so we have to lay ourselves down before God and be willing to be worked on, be checked out, be checked. This was just really good, and I'm really looking forward. I think we talked about doing this quarterly right now. I think quarterly is going to be really good for us to do this, but you'll have Healing in Heels. When is that coming back?
We will be back in December. The first weekend in December will be our Healing in Heels podcast. And we are super excited to come to you to discuss again the things that you think you know.
So we want to just say thank you and happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there, and we'll see you next time.